Yeah, we are alive with the great Bill Boyle. We really wanted to talk to tonight. I wanted to wait until tonight to really have a conversation with anybody about everything that's gone on in the last 48 hours with Hitler's invasion and kidnapping of Maduro. I wanted to take in a whole bunch of information and read several articles and hear from all kinds of different point of views and try to gather as much information as I could before I got into a conversation. I had a quick hot take that I put out on social media, but Bill Boyle, I know, has been doing the same. I'm sure talking to a lot of people, reading a lot of people, and of course, understanding history to a certain extent, not only in this region, but around the world. So happy Sunday night to you. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely, brother. Happy Sunday.
So lots of thoughts. I feel like we need to either start with the history of the United States kind of invasions, imperialism, overthrowing of Latin American leadership and governments, or if not that, we need to start with this whole realignment that the Trump regime announced, their new security agreements, and basically what seems it is that, everybody's saying Monroe Doctrine, the Don Doctrine corollary to it. There was a Roosevelt corollary to it. And this is about having influence in your literal sphere of the globe. So Russia can take what it wants in Europe. China can take what it wants in Asia. America can take what it wants in the rest of the planet or something. Where do you think is a good place to start?
Well, we can start with that idea, which is apparently in Alaska, Putin was telling Trump that he was willing to make a deal over Venezuela and Ukraine. What's so utterly bizarre about that idea is that before Trump, almost all of the major economies of the world, the most liberal, democratic, economically important countries in the world, other than China, were essentially vassal states of the United States. So, what Trump is doing is basically taking a world that the U.S. dominates and agreeing to carve it up. In other words, to give away American hegemony over the world for regional powers, and making us a regional power when we don't need to be, when we have all the power in the world to dominate the globe for a long time to come. Instead, what he's saying is it's a very risk board sort of mentality. And that, I'll give you a good example. Colombia. President of Colombia yesterday said, this is all about the Epstein files. The United States is trying to force this war on South America to keep attention away from the Epstein files and basically screw these guys and screw their strange wars, I think some way he put it in Spanish. Colombia 12 months ago or a year and a half ago was a tight American ally, right? Like, by going to this, doing what we're doing or attempting to do, we're basically giving up our power, we're turning our allies into enemies, and we're weakening ourselves for a very bizarrely short-sighted and short horizon view of the world. Venezuela, for instance, and here's a great example. These guys look at the map and they see all the oil in Venezuela and they say, wow, we can get all this oil. And just like in Iraq, by the way, where Dick Cheney and Colin Powell and various others said we could pay for the war in Iraq with their oil. Right. That never happened, and it's never going to happen in Venezuela.
Yeah, well,
2 minutes of research in Venezuela tells you that the oil is sour, which in a technical term for full of sulfur. It's the worst oil in the world, as a friend of mine who's in the gas and oil business told me. It's cheap-ish to extract, but it's also very expensive to refine. And with the price of oil in the world where it is, there's no reason to take that oil out of the ground. So it's just it's a classic thing of these sort of weirdos pushing around, counters on a map without realizing any of the actual important facts that make any decision like this make sense or not make sense.
Well, how much reporting and how much understanding do you have of the American oil industry, which are really multinational companies, influencing the Trump administration in doing this and having conversations and already setting up shop there?
So my understanding is that it's not the big oil companies doing this. It's various fringe hangers on and opportunists going to the White House and saying, hey, we can make a lot of money from this Venezuelan oil. The big oil companies are very careful about investing where their billions of investment can be taken away tomorrow. It's why they're not in Venezuela now. By the way, we don't control Venezuela at all, which is a bizarre thing that the media seems to be just sliding over. There is still a Venezuela government run by Chavistas. The Rodriguez, the VP, is now running the country. She's quite hostile to the U.S. Her husband is the guy who runs like some of the militias. This guy, the Minister of Justice, Cabello, he has like hundreds of thousands of troops at his disposal. We don't have no boots on the ground. We don't control anything. And we went from, Trump saying we're going to run the country yesterday to Rubio this morning saying, well, if they don't do what we're going to do, we're just going to embargo all their oil. We're going to put put ships around the country, not letting any of the oil leave.
Yeah.
This is making the coalition provisional authority look like the Marshall Plan.
The coalition, basically the Bush administration's organization named to set up after the invasion and occupation of Iraq, which of course went bad. And a lot of people are referring to that. Marco Rubio today on, I think, Meet the Press or ABC basically said comparisons to Iraq and the Middle East are ridiculous because this is Latin America, this is Venezuela, this is not that.
Yeah, and American interventions in Latin America have a very, very long history,
right,
of not working out at all well for anybody. They don't work out well. Panama is the one big exception. And that's because Panama already is like heavily inculcated with American culture. And the Bush administration, George Bush administration, and Clinton administration spent, another decade investing billions and propping the country back up, where there was no real feeling among Panamanians that they wanted to fight Americans. They were fine with us coming in. That is the one single intervention in Latin and South America that has not turned out to be complete dog shit. Everywhere else, and particularly what they're doing here, everywhere else where we picked a dictator and said, this is going to be our guy, which is what they're doing right now. Machado's stand-in, I think his name was Eduardo Rodriguez, he won in the last election in Venezuela. I think that the Maduro got 30%. The Trump administration was like, we don't want to deal with them. Like they're explicitly locking out the democratic potential government of Venezuela. Why? Because democratic governments don't give away their resources. Right. This is mafia state behavior, and they want to deal with other mafia state people.
Right.
They don't want to deal with the inconvenience of having to deal with people who actually got elected to something.
And being a mafia state, or as your friend Graham Plattner is referring to them, international gangsters, that means that they behave that way that you have leverage on, in this case, your client, Venezuela. So it would seem that the administration, Rubio et al., are just trying to make sure that they get a puppet, someone that they can control. Yeah,
they want. Well, again, this administration's weird because different people want different things.
That's true.
Right? I mean, it's not. We're used to talking about administrations in terms of like, what's their plan and what's the policy. Yeah, Trump wants to throw his weight around. Vance, you notice, is nowhere to be seen anywhere on TV about this because Vance doesn't actually agree and he's hiding out. Rubio sees this as a way to put pressure on Cuba. And if he could somehow say he was the guy who liberated Cuba, it gives him a chance to run for president. You have all these other folks, Miller and whoever else, seeing like another CCOT potential location. You see all these business hangers-on who see ways they might be able to make money on it. This is just classic Trump administration sort of unthought out aggression for the sort of it's very Trump. It's the Trump stakes of Latin American foreign policy.
Yes. And it would seem that this could potentially only be the beginning. I've read a few Latin American experts, including John Lee Anderson at the New Yorker, saying, what could be next. And he writes, whether or not the takeover by Trump of Venezuela will necessarily mean a subsequent attempt against communist Cuba. That's what he's thinking about. That's what a lot of people are thinking about. Marco Rubio said they should watch out, basically. All indications, he writes, are that it will. Both he and Rubio have hinted as much today. If Americans are able to effect regime change in Cuba, that would have immense symbolic power and truly would be the hope diamond in Trump's tiara. Cuba's own immediate value is symbolic. As the cradle of anti-Yankee activities in the hemisphere for the past 6.5 decades, its demolition would cement the specter of Trumpian power over the Americas. Unlike Venezuela, Cuba has no oil to speak of, but has a 700-mile-long Caribbean island with the potential for the construction of hundreds of new hotels, beach resorts, and golf courses. It's a real estate man's nirvana.
Yeah, and it's very much, most people don't realize that the reactionary impulse in America to a great degree comes from like our sort of history of slavery and the Confederacy and the rural agrarian interests, like being against the mercantile sort of New England interests in the country. Well, those slaveholders in 1850, you know what they really wanted to do? They wanted to get Panama. They wanted to get northern Mexico. They wanted Cuba, because their solution to the problem of maintaining slave power in the United States was to add all these other blocks to the United States, and they would be states, quote unquote, dominated by a white overclass. When you read, as I have over years read these sorts of things about that period in American history, it sounds so similar. It's astonishingly similar. It's this idea that you could have this empire in the Caribbean where basically rich white men can make out like bandits and have an underclass that serves them. And it's precisely the same thing that's happening here. This is an old American dream by the most reactionary people in American society. Is it cotton fields and cane sugar now? No. It's hotels, as you say, and resorts and beaches, just like what they're trying to do with Gaza, right? Just like they talk about doing other places. This is the way they think. It's when you think about it, it's such a bizarre place for America to be. It's such a bizarre place for us to be, because 100 years of American history, the last 100 years, has been the opposite of that until now. It's always been at least a veneer, at least a really benign, hypocritical layer over what America did. And as you know, I agree, America's often done some terrible things. But the hypocrisy mattered, because the hypocrisy meant that you had to find a way to justify what you were doing, at least try to. And you had to find ways to mitigate what you did, because Americans wanted the hypocrisy to make themselves feel like they were not an empire, right? We're not Britain. We're not Russia. We're not, American history, if you go back, Truman, FDR, Wilson, they were very anti-imperial, all of them. Republicans were anti-empire. Lincoln was anti-empire. Trump is explicitly pro-empire. And except for, you have to go back to Southern slave owners to find somebody of that ilk in American history.
Not that it's a scholarly view or doctrine, but being anti-empire would certainly, or being pro-empire, as you're saying he is now, would seem to be at odds with America first. And there does seem to be a rift along those lines from Steve Bannon today and MGT and others that see this as an issue. And I think that's an important fracture to probably exploit and also talk about. But I mean, the imperial or colonial ambitions that this administration now seemingly has, part of it is just obviously enriching themselves, right? It's back to the mafia.
Well, that was always slave owners weren't slave owners because they definitely someone woke up one day said we want slaves. They were slave owners because it made them a lot of money. Right.
But there's an ideology. There's a deeper ideology that goes with colonialist ambitions. Usually in history, it would seem this one seems to be. I mean, it's always about making money and expanding your empire, and but often expanding your ideology, or even, dare I say, spreading democracy, or preventing it from being spread. Whatever, the fight against communism or for capitalism, whatever you want to say. This seems to be literally small, like a few people making a few deals. For their interests to a certain extent, the oil industry, but not necessarily. I mean, there's all kinds of different interests, and it would seem to be if you get to Mar-a-Lago and you get the president, it doesn't matter who you are. You could get a pardon or a contract. Who knows?
Yeah, it's billionaire populism. That's how I describe it. Right?
Yeah. It's an auction.
It's this. yeah, it's billionaire populism, which is different, frankly, than I think historically. I can't think of a single episode like this in any other country. Um, it's a very it's we've gotten into some very weird byway of American culture, mixed with, of course, the internet and social media and everything else, making this work. But it it's a very strange place that we're in. And by the way, I mean, if you look at what's happening, none of this lasts, right? These guys are going to get the idea. They're talking about Mexico already, sending in special forces to Mexico.
Yeah.
What always happens, and this is the danger of having a tool that is so good, like U.S. Special Forces and the U.S. military, you keep using it. And then one day it goes wrong. And when it goes wrong Mogadishu style.
Yeah.
But my point being that these guys have now been emboldened. They think they won. Like, we're literally, by the way, halfway through the first batter in the first inning of what's going to happen in Venezuela.
No, it's very important.
These guys have already thought they won the World Series.
Right. It's really important to mention where we're at in terms of timeline. It's just the first 72 hours, and they're all crucial. And there's all kinds of horse trading and negotiation and power vacuums. And we know what that creates. It'd be one thing, I guess, in history, you could talk about this. I can't really, but, knocking off a foreign leader whose entire country hates him is not as controversial. So Saddam or Gaddafi,
right?
Or the majority of the people hate him. They always have some power center, right? And that's the case in Venezuela. Like, the vast majority of people really do not like and have not liked Maduro for several years. He stole an election, poverty rates skyrocketing, people leaving if they can, and so on. But that doesn't mean that when you knock him off, that whatever comes next is going to be better, not only for the Venezuelan people in this case, but for American interests, even much less, Latin American interests, much less the oil industries. Like, it's not necessarily guaranteed to be better, and obviously, it's never our place to do it. But
I mean, Pete, it's almost guaranteed to be worse, because the CIA did a deep study years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, about the effects of attempting regime change in Venezuela, and they were like looking at how Venezuela is a ramshackle version, a more disorganized ramshackle version of Russia, in the sense that there's organized crime controls a chunk of it. The Chavistas control a chunk of it. There's other groups that control chunks of it. And they all sort of operate in this uneasy sort of everyone gets their piece and they leave each other alone kind of setup. The regular people are just the ones who lose, is how it works. Well, if you knock out the Chavistas, right, the various components of that movement, if you knock all the senior ones out, are going to fight each other for control of things. They have a lot of guns,
Right.
and they're highly organized. They're not organized to stop an American air raid. They're great for civil unrest, for controlling a neighborhood, or frankly, for shooting Marines who are trying to occupy Caracas. There's tons of people, lots of guns, and there's no when this falls apart, it's not like you and I are going to be saying, "Yay, this is awesome. Trump lost this bet." It's going to be more penury, more violence, more savagery in Venezuela, right? I mean, it's going to be terrible, and then the U.S. will be responsible for it. Will be weakened even more for it. I mean, right now, what's happening? Countries in South America are saying, "Okay, I guess we have to get closer to China now. Like, we have to get closer to China because the Americans are untrustworthy and are intervening like it's 1952."
Right.
And that's what's going to happen. It's not, there's no, what is the imagined great turnaround here? We've already told the actual Democrats in Venezuela they're out. So Trump's vision is to have the Chavistas still run the country. And I guess at best, what do? They give us part of the oil. Like, there's no good outcome to this. We just become the dictator, right? That's it.
A lot of people are making the point that this signals to China and Russia for their expansionist ambitions. Do you think that's it's a pretty conventional wisdom point, I guess?
Well, it's not what it signals to them, because Russia, Putin's a scumbag, and he's already doing it, right? China, I think, is generally speaking, Xi acts deliberately. But China is building up and building up its capabilities to take Taiwan in case it ever chooses to do it, which, by the way, would be a blockade. Sound familiar? What we're talking about with Venezuela. They would try to coerce Taiwan with a blockade. That's how they would do it. What China is seeing happen here is not encouragement to do what it already sort of wants to do in Taiwan. It's seeing the United States do things that drive our allies away from us, so that if it's a fight over Taiwan, it's just going to be the US and just China. And other allies will step aside and say, well, sorry, you just did this to Venezuela. Maybe we don't want to risk our national existence over somebody who's not all that different from China in the first place. So that's the danger. The danger, American power, as I say all the time when you and I talk, is based on alliance systems. We provide support. Other countries do generally what we want them to do. Trump is just shredding that. And so when we have a big fight with someone like China, maybe we're just doing it on our own at that point. And that would be a horrendously bad thing, even if we won, because it would be that much harder to win, and it would be that much more costly.
Let's talk about domestic politics and how this plays out, and what, if anything, Democrats can do. I think I can play this. This is Seth Moulton. You told me to grab this. He was on CNN, and he's Democratic. He's a House Democrat. Here it is.
Going to be administering a country of 30 million people, Venezuela. You just heard that hour-long press conference. So let's just go with, what's your reaction here?
I mean, is anyone going to just stop for a second and be honest? This is insane. What the hell are we doing? I mean, we've got a lot of problems in America today, and invading, occupying, running Venezuela does not solve any of them. It is illegal. It's unjustified. It is not in our national interest. And there seems to be no plan whatsoever for what happens next.
All right. That's Congressman Seth Moulton. What do you think of that response, and what else will we hear? What do you think we should hear from Democrats? What, if anything, can they do on this?
Well, so what Moulton is getting at is something. I'm looking at some polling numbers in front of me. Only 16% support U.S. boots on the ground in Venezuela. Only 18% support military force to overthrow Maduro. Only a third supported troops to remove Maduro. So where we are right now is only 1/3 of the country at best thinks it's good what we just did. And any further action they take to get us in deeper, you end up with 4 out of 5 Americans saying this sucks. No. This is before anything's gone wrong, by the way. So the politics of this are gigantically toxic for the Trump administration. This goes, like the Epstein files, this goes right at a weakness he has with his own base. And this is the sort of thing that kills a movement. It kills a coalition, because people start to go, whoa, I literally thought this guy ran ads saying we're not going to get involved in any wars, and now he's doing it. Yeah. And he's talking about Mexico and Greenland and everywhere else. This is not popular. It is not at all popular. And I think it's kind of a big deal that our media right now, what I've seen of it, is generally sort of treating this like it's not as big a deal, or not as unpopular as it is. They seem to be kind of holding their water on how unpopular it is. I know it's unpopular.
I've seen that a little bit.
They're not saying that.
I've seen that a little bit too. And while I haven't seen this narrative play out, I have seen some version of it already, which is, this is not a war. This is not an occupation. This is literally, they sent in the police. DEA went in with special forces. So it was like a joint DOJ Defense Department operation. And so American law enforcement officials went in because there was an indictment for this guy.
Right.
One of the charges, by the way, was that he had a machine gun. So that's
the
kind
1934 law, as Representative Thomas Massey pointed that out.
Oh, interesting. So they will argue that this is a police action. This was going in and getting a criminal. This is not a war. It's not an invasion or an occupation. Although the next day, their dear leader said, "Yeah, we own it. We're running it now. It's ours."
I mean, that politically is just
the argument. Will be the argument to a certain extent. I'm sure we'll see from MAGA. The convincing argument to them is this is not a forever war. This is us kicking ass around our hemisphere, and that's good because we are ass kickers.
You'll get certain people who say that. Sure, I've heard it from some folks. The problem for the Trump people is going to be 6 months when this is still a running sore. That's going to be a different case.
Right.
Right. I mean,
we're
literally, 2 days into this?
It doesn't seem like Iran was a running sore. We bombed the shit out of them, and that seems to have gone
but again,
away.
Iran is not.
Yeah, in 2020 or whatever, at the beginning of Trump won, he assassinated an Iranian general. That seemed to go away.
Except that Iran is not across the Caribbean Ocean. It's not near Florida. There's not tons of Iranians in the U.S. living in Miami. There's not this is a much closer thing to home. And again, this Trump never said we're going to run Iran and put troops in. And the second Trump had stuck to this was a police action, Trump should have been saying what you just said. This is a police action. We got this bad guy.
I mean, that's what Rubio said, and it is what the rest of the administration is basically going to say.
But you know what? MAGA doesn't listen to the rest of the administration. America doesn't hear what Rubio says. They hear what Trump says. Trump said, we're going to run this country, and if we have to put boots on the ground, that's what we're doing. That is political suicide. It's unbelievable. And his problem is that he can't really win this. He can't. Because what's going to happen 3 months from now?
You get rid of the guy that's preventing international petroleum investment.
But that's not true.
You bring in those companies. They do business. They're our puppet. We've been doing this kind of client state work all over the world forever.
This is the argument that the banana companies made when they got the U.S. to invade Central America.
Right.
It's the exact argument again.
Right.
And again, yes. This won't work. It's the wrong kind of crude. The market, oil is too cheap to make it worth it. And who trusts Trump? If you're an oil company and someone says, hey, we need $5 billion from you and you can have all the crude you want from Venezuela. What oil company executive? These are not stupid people.
A lot of companies make deals with him around the world.
They're not going to put $5 billion into the country.
Had made deals with him. Why would
they're not going to put $5 billion into a country where their investment could go up in smoke tomorrow? They know Trump never follows through.
I think they're on their way there right now.
You're going to get some executive from somebody there. Let's see if they put any money in. I would bet you that in the end, they'll make big announcements. The game that everybody plays here is to try to make Trump feel good.
Right.
So Exxon will say, we're putting in $20 billion. We're doing it next week. And then it never really will happen. And by the way, it's literally cost prohibitive to do this. This is very expensive. I've talked to people. I have a very good friend who is in the oil and gas industry. And you can go online. There's Reddits on this that you can go find. This is very expensive oil to refine. It's sour, very sulfur heavy oil. It's why, by the way, the Maduro regime was fairly stable. Nobody was investing before this. So, the proof is not in what people say, it's in what they do. We will see.
One final point I just want to throw out to you is a lot of people are saying, including people like Tom Hartman, I mentioned it. Lots of people are saying that there's got to be some truth to a wag the dog argument that every president in America and everywhere else, when they are domestically losing, their approval rating plummeting, they do a invasion of some sort, low scale bombing, missile strikes. In this case, snatch a foreign leader with special forces from his home. How much credence do you give to that? Is it worth even talking about that this was a distraction from the Epstein trials or the Jack Smith testimony coming out?
I don't think it matters because I don't think Trump thinks that way in the first place.
Well, it's not a Rubio. Rubio doesn't think that way. Rubio wanted this. This is a Rubio.
Rubio wanted this for a long time, right? A. B. Trump just, a lot of the things we're seeing Trump does have no political utility for him. If this is a wag the dog moment, he's doing the worst possible wag the dog. MAGA doesn't want it. Regular Americans don't want it. You don't wag the dog. And, if you really wanted to, get away from the Epstein trials, I don't know, nuke London. No one will talk about it for weeks, right? But it doesn't help you. And this is sort of in that mode. Like I think people overthink how much Trump thinks in the first place.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
They do. The analysis. There's been so much analysis of his thinking I've seen in the last 24 hours.
Yep.
And it's like, that's they're wasting their time.
Yeah. He's a fucking idiot. And that's it. He's a narcissist. He is trying to fill a lot of times people are chasm in his soul. A lot of times running around and doing things,
thinking for him and competing to get in front of him to share their harebrained awful idea. And then he's like, yeah, go ahead and do it. Stephen Miller, go do it. Go name him. Go rename the Kennedy Center after me. That's a great idea. That was probably his idea, but it must have been. But regardless, like it's not really a lot of forethought, especially in the Kennedy Center. Like if that place is now losing so much money and distinction. I mean, you could speak to it. It's in your town, but I mean, like it's not looking good, that move for
everybody I know who would have gone for various events, Christmas, New Year's, whatever, to the Kennedy Center. Yeah. They've all canceled.
Somebody wrote a joke on social media. Trump can't run Venezuela. He can't run the Kennedy Center.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, it's just, but again, it's best to treat Trump like he is a political hurricane. You don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. You just got to predict as best you can what's going to happen. But in the end, this is one man's gigantically insane narcissistic ego bouncing around. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what happens after him. He doesn't care about anything except just being aggrandized from day to day. And that's it. And I think that if you try to find a big strategy or try to find some, sharp political move, his sharp political move is to not really care about the politics at all. Most people, even Vance, would be going, well, wait a minute, we need to win another election. The party needs this, etc. This is personalized autocratic rule in a sort of damaged democracy. And we're in the autumn of the patriarch, not to steal a South American novel's name for what's happening right now. Little Marquez there for the kids who read a lot.
I don't know Marquez. So
it's magical realism, which is a great way to describe how Trump sees the world.
What will you be looking for over the next few days and weeks around this issue? Who are you watching, reading? And again, how does this play out domestically, politically in the days when everybody starts focusing back in a bit?
So I'm ignoring all the mainstream pundits completely because none of them are Venezuela specialists, and I would recommend people.
I got a Venezuela specialist on the show tomorrow from NYU.
Oh, see, that's why we love you, because you actually do.
Vasquez.
So I'm ignoring all the mainstream people. I'm going and finding people recommended by smart people to talk about it. I have friends that are in the pundit business on Venezuela, so I'm reading what they're saying. But what I would really watch is there's the justice minister of Venezuela, a guy named Cabello. And Cabello is the real muscle behind who's left of the Chavistas in charge. There are rumors that the Trump administration is courting him like crazy. And this guy is total shit. He's terrible.
Well,
the Trump people see him as a potential strongman, and they're really working on him. They would keep Rodriguez as the figurehead, and Cabello would actually run things. Now, Cabello, interestingly enough, was also indicted with Maduro, and he was not picked up.
Oh.
Which I would suggest was Cabello probably set Maduro up to sort of redirect the wrath of the United States.
Well, somebody was apparently the CIA or.
Yeah, I mean, this is not, these guys are not.
They had someone very close to him at all times.
That's right. These are not the Ukrainians. Like these are not highly capable people in that respect. Watch Cabello and see what Cabello does. If he starts making deals with the United States or starts saying, well, maybe we need to work with the U.S., that means that the corrupt bargain has been made and Trump will have his, it's very much like it'll be like 1950s Havana if they make some sort of deal where Americans will go down there and invest money on Venezuelan beaches, and Venezuelans will just get ground deeper into the dirt by some of the worst people in the world.
Well, I'll talk to Professor Alejandro Velasco tomorrow.
Awesome.
He's a PhD in Latin American history, and he was at Duke. He's at NYU. He's a big deal. He's written books about Venezuela, and
Yep.
I think we should all be paying attention to Venezuelan journalists. But even then, trying to figure out where their biases are, or where their credibility lies, is always important. But we should be learning about the country the countries who we invade and take their president, no matter how bad.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the average American's approach, is to find out about who we invaded after.
It's also like a whole thing culturally in Latin America to see America, the United States, as an invader, occupier, interference.
I mean, it is a fair read of what we've actually done to them.
Yeah, I mean, in how many countries through Central and South America? Yeah,
I was going to look that up before this call, and then I did not get to it. But that would be an interesting number to see. It's dozens for certain. It's dozens, absolutely. And we have just added one ignominious coda to that list.
Yeah. Well, it's like many things can be true. You can be happy that Maduro's gone.
Sure.
But you can be concerned, pretty concerned about.
He's not actually gone. The system that he inherited is still there. They're still, by the way, there's a ton of AI videos out there showing Venezuelans weeping on the streets, happy that this happened. Most of them are fake. There's a ton of fake videos out there. I've been looking at actual Venezuelan people. The streets are empty, and guess who's on the streets? Armed regime troops everywhere. The only things open in Venezuela right now are grocery stores and pharmacies, and there are government troops on the streets with guns all over Caracas. So Maduro is gone, but Maduro didn't create that system. It didn't depend on him. Chavez did. So this is now the Chavistas are still totally in power, and the only thing that's changed is that the U.S., this administration, might just figure out some way they can squeeze money out of them. And that's it.
So thanks for joining me tonight. Appreciate your insights on all of it. Everybody watching live, hopefully you appreciated us doing this on this Sunday night, recapping everything that happened over the weekend. Thank you very, very much. Patreon.com/Pete Dominick to support me here every day. Bill, always a pleasure.
All right. See everybody at work tomorrow.
Bye, everybody. See you at work.
Hello.
That's right. Get back to